Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jill Hicks. I've had a bunch of roles, but my heart is dear to Head Start. I actually started my career working with Head Start. I was a preschool teacher a long, long, long time ago. And then that blossomed into a variety of different things. But I've been working as a therapist here in the Sandpoint area. I'm not in Sandpoint today. I'm actually on vacation right now, but heading home shortly, actually after we do our call today. And I have worked in mental health, worked with young children for the last, oh my gosh, now we're on 26 years, you guys. That seems so crazy. And it's been an awesome career. And so I love questions. This format, I am a mover, I am a shaker when I do my talk. So I'm going to try to sit still, even though my chair is wiggly. Please take care of yourself, take breaks if you need to, and we'll get started with our program. I wrote a grant for with Kinderhaven. Kinderhaven used to be a shelter for young children. I was on the board there for about 15 years. They were kind enough to pay for this training, and I do a couple other trainings as well. But today we'll focus on this particular one. This is through the Cord Education and Training, but I have modified it to meet our needs because we're really doing a 7-week training, which is pretty big, down to 4 sessions. And when I do the 7-week training, that's about 2 hours per training. It gives us enough time to do our journals and things like that, to answer questions and have some interaction. Since this is going to be condensed, you're going to hear me talk a little bit more than normal. But I will field questions. If you have questions that are happening later on in the class, or maybe in between sessions, if there's something you want to ask me, you can go through Jennifer, or I can put my email address in the chat as well. I do have a full practice of kids that I see throughout the week. I usually am pretty good about answering and responding to emails, but I'm happy to get your responses, because I really wish that when I was in, as a young mom, I have two daughters, that I actually got more support than I did. So please ask. Happy to answer. You've got a great team here of support. So we'll get started. With this, there is a little book that goes with it. It's called Integrative Parenting Strategies. For those of you who learn better by reading and having some hands-on tools, you can always go ahead and get this little book. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Integrative Parenting. And we'll get started. So we talk a lot about various strategies. Oh, by the way, put all of your questions into chat. And then when we have little breaks, we'll get those, try to get those answered for
Can we also put your name in chat so that
you
I can take attendance?
as much as we can. So let's practice that. Let's put your name, and just maybe first name. I don't need your last names. Just first name and maybe ages of your kids. That'll give me kind of a little more indication as you guys, as we get moving in the class, as to what ages and stages your kids are at, because I can tailor this. What we want to really work on doing in this, like, what is integrated parenting exactly? We as parents have the hardest job there is. We can all raise our hands that parenting is lifelong. It's one of our hardest jobs that we do. But we have a job in growing up our kids, as along with growing up children, along helping them maintain good coping strategies, helping them manage lots of different environments. It's just, there's a lot to it. Growing a human is a really hard job. Remember in pregnancy, how we were all like, oh, I got my aches and pains and belly hurts. And then you get that little shark fin of an elbow coming across, right? You're like, oh. With your young kids, it can be very taxing as far as just physically. You're tired, that you have a lot to do. You're managing work and parenting, and as kids get older, that just shifts. And we won't talk about when they're older because we're in this stage right now. So we're gonna really have it. So this class will break down different types of parenting, mindfulness. That's a big fancy word for staying calm and present and connected in your body. Attachment strategies are ways we can connect to our kids and attune to our kids. And then obviously, when our kids are dysregulated, our job is to help calm them down. And then we also will talk about new brain research that helps with discipline methods, because when we know better, we do better. And I'll tell you guys, as a therapist, it is such an awesome career because every single month I get to learn something new. And what I
Mm.
thought I knew years ago, I no longer use, or I adapt or change, because when we know better, we do better. And with science and brain research, we have learned so much about how brains grow and develop, how our kids grow and develop. It's been just awesome to see. So with your family visitors and everybody else, we talk about the right ingredients. When you start baking a cake, you can't unbake your cake, right? Once you add the dry ingredients and once you add that first egg, you have now a half-baked cake, right? And our kids, for the first 18 to 22 years, that is our cake that we are baking. We are making the right ingredients at the right time. So everybody loves to talk about attachment. You guys talked about attachment in your circle of security, but it breaks down to these things: touch, closeness, and eye contact. That is so huge. I'm struggling with that right now with you guys. I feel you,
Yeah.
but I don't feel that connection of that contact, right? And I'm trying to like navigate my monitor and my screen of where's my camera so I can make eye contact with you guys. Emotional attunement. How are we taking care of our kids' feelings? How are we teaching them about feelings? Right? Feelings come up through the body, and we do a good job of labeling them, hopefully. So then we can, oh, I understand what I'm feeling, and now I can work with it. Holding their environment, making sure we're safe, making sure they can come to us, making sure that we're their person. One of my colleagues uses the term, we should be our kids' safe harbor. Isn't that great? Don't you
Mm.
want to be the place where your kids come home to, where it's the most safe, the most calm, the most secure? Because we have to send them out into a world, you guys, that is, it could, there's a lot of stuff out there that's yucky. So we want to be our kids' safe harbor. And then obviously shared pleasure, play, and fun. We want to have fun with them. Like we had them for a reason, right? And kids are fun. They bring new light to our lives. They look through different things in different ways. And so those are those nice four ingredients. So when we talk about regulation, regulation is a really fancy word for calming down and being connected, right? Regulate. If we look at it, regulation, we're looking at really just calming our bodies down to be able to regulate with somebody else. When our kids are first born, we have this lovely, here's my little brain slide. We have this little prefrontal cortex. So I'm going to show you guys all this little hand model. This is by Daniel Siegel. He is also a child, he's actually a doctor. And he has created this. So if you go on YouTube and you want to look at it again, you can. But if I just close my hand here, this is our prefrontal cortex right here, right? So this is my hand brain model. So my prefrontal cortex is literally just my fingertips right here. That is kind of like, I'm going to go back and probably date myself, but that is kind of like Star Trek Grand Central Station, right? Like of the mothership, this is the Star Trek of the mothership, right? And so as we have this Grand Central Station right here, this area for our littles is pretty vacant. We haven't quite developed it yet. But this is where all of our interactions are going to kind of circle through, right? Think of it like your control center. When our
Yeah,
prefrontal cortex is connected,
I would like to learn this too,
Okay.
because the
One sec. I'm gonna get this.
it's okay.
so
Got it.
if you're okay with that. Yes.
I'm trying, Jill. There we go. You're muted, Jill.
I know. There we go. It,
Got
it's
it.
not a Zoom meeting, you guys, until we're not unmuted. I swear. Anyway, so when we do a prefrontal cortex, right? I'm going to go back to my little brain here. When we have that repeated soothing, we are growing this part of our brain, right? If I turn my hand to the side, this part, this prefrontal cortex is connected to our downstairs brain. Let me get into that. This is a fancy slide, and it basically means, hold on, I've got something kind of weird on my screen happening. Don't want to lose you guys. Okay, good. Yay. I hate pushing buttons. I'm in that era where pushing a button is scary. You guys are in the era where pushing a button to figure it out. It's dating myself a little bit, but I was like, ah. Okay. So if we think about this slide for just a minute, I'm going to go into detail. Right brain, left brain, right? Left, logical, right? It's linear, it's logical. It's how us as adults think and do. Our right brain is the first thing that develops in a child, right? So when we harmonize with our kids, we are actually holding them. If we're regulated and our if our heart's not going crazy and we can calm ourselves down, our kids are going to get that tunement. They're going to calm themselves down too, right? And so we're harmonizing with them. The best thing you can do as a new mom or dad is get yourself regulated first. And there are times where we have to take a breath and take a minute, right? Taking that
Yeah.
breath helps your nervous system regulate. It tells you, oh, right? Slow moving, go slow to the baby if you're feeling really anxious can help us regulate. And of course, kids don't cry when you're at home. They cry when you're out in public in the grocery store. That's when their meltdowns happen, right? So it's a little bit like, oh my gosh, there's a little bit of anxiety to it. It's okay, right? And so if we can regulate, that we can help do this. And we do this over and over and over all day long. This is what's exhausting is our kids dysregulate. We have to bring them back to regulation, figure out what's going on for them, and then that cycle continues over and over and over again, right? And
And
the more we learn our babies and learn our kids, the easier this gets, right? And gosh, I'll tell you, as a mom of two, I am still shocked that these two beings came out of my same body because they couldn't be more different from one another. So I'm always like, wow, how did that happen? Right? What worked for one may not work for the other. And that's really important because each child, depending on where you are in life and what's going on in your life, is going to be raised differently than their siblings. It's just a fact of life because we change and grow too. So let's go back to this for a minute. Our right brain is our big creative emotions, sensations, all of the things that are around us. And our right brain is as present at birth, right? Our right brain grows as well, but there's a lot more right brain for our babies. Our left brain, if we think about those L's, we have logical, linear, literal, and linguistic. And all of that takes a long time to grow and develop, right? There's a study now with teenagers, and the teenagers are looking at a plain faced person. In our adult brain, when we look at that same plain faced person, we go, oh, they must be bored, or oh, that person just has a plain face. And the left side of our brain lights up. Teenagers and below, their emotional part of their brain lights up. So we are interpreting emotions differently than our kids. And kids are going, oh, he's mad at me. Oh, he might be bored. Oh, he hates me. Right.
and
So
we
they're looking at
we
yeah.
during Circle of Security, we talk a little bit about this, and we talk about it as a parent being gone. And for littles, it's really actually kind of scary, that blank face, because they're like, oh no, where did mom or dad or where did my caregiver go? They're gone. I don't have
Mhm.
them anymore.
Yeah. And I would say, and I'm sure there's a study out on this, I would say this little fun device that we all have that's married to our hip, or even how you're watching me, If we are doing this, all of a sudden I've just lost connection, right? And a little kiddo, you can actually try it with your kids, not for very long and not over and over. They'll start to get dysregulated. They'll start to be like, where did my mom or where did my dad go? And they'll start to do all their tricks. They'll start to do their cooing, they'll start to do their laughing, they'll start to do whatever, or they'll turn right into tears,
And
right?
they're trying to draw you back in. I need
Trying
you
to
to
get
come
you in.
back to me.
And this is such a beautiful way to describe, attention is attention, good attention or negative attention, right? So if they try their cute tricks and they don't work, then they try the big cries or the wails and that works. Oh, in their brain, there's the logic. Cry, get mom's attention, right? Because what wires together fires together. So we have to be careful with that. And we have to make sure we do phone breaks, right? Because kids are, I mean, babies are they're hard. And so, literally putting your phone across the room and spending some quality time with your kid, even for short stints of time, is a beautiful, beautiful connection. So, going back to my little hand muppet here, my hand model, our downstairs brain is mostly wired at birth. This is where we blink. This is where if we are where we blink, we swallow, we breathe. It's just your automatic things. It's in the back of your brain, and it's called your lizard brain, is how I describe it to my 2, 3-year-old littles that I work with. I'm like, oh, your lizard brain's down here. You have this little guy right here. It's about the size of an almond, and it's called your amygdala. Your amygdala is like your fire alarm. Your amygdala connects your downstairs brain and your upstairs brain. It also does another bunch of other cool stuff that we'll get into later on. But if I am connected, my downstairs brain and my upstairs brain are working. When we get in danger, flight, fight, or freeze, that little fire alarm goes off, and so does our upstairs brain. Isn't that crazy? So if you think about it, when your child is having a meltdown or throwing a fit, they are not connected. This is going off. And I have a little patient who I work with. She's 4, and her mom and dad were in a session with me, and they were arguing. And she is in sitting in between them doing this to me and pointing mom and dad, because she knew this argument, they were not connected to their brains or bodies, right? So kids are so smart. I just love them. So when we connect here, this is when that discipline comes in for you, when that connection happens. So we have to connect to our kids first. And then when they've calmed down, then your discipline strategy comes in, right? Or what you need to do. So it's connection first all the time. Um, so when we look at the upstairs brain, I want to think of it like it's going to be in a beautiful, comfy living room. It's going to have books that our kids learn through the years. It's going to have maybe some screens where they can watch TV or they have memories. It's going to have a comfy couch. It's going to have an image of you guys as their safe harbor. This is going to build over the next 18 years. And the more experiences we have is going to build that upstairs brain. And we want most thinking to come from that upstairs brain. But for little kids, it's pretty sparse at first, right? It's kind of like when you first move in to your apartment and you're like, oh man, what do I got to put in this place to make it livable? And that's what we're building for our kids.
And we do that through, oh, this slide's great. We do that through all those interactions that we have with them, all of
Mhm.
those positive touches, all of the positive getting close and connected.
Yep. All the feels there. So this is kind of reminds me of that Inside Out movie. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's a great way to describe some emotional development in kids, and for kids. We use these clips quite a bit through our trainings at the high school and the junior high as well. But this is a little guy. He's an angry elf, I'll call him. And as mom stays calm and present, he is able to connect. So I just think that's a great visual of that connection piece. She's not doing any discipline and she's not saying a lot of words, right? Because words initially don't matter. It's kind of like if you rationalize with somebody who's been drinking too much, it's not going to matter, right? Those words don't matter because they're not going to remember them. So when we think about our job as parents, this is where, gosh, I'm going to take this integrative parenting class. What does that mean? We're going to integrate that left side and that right side together into that brain. And we're going to start to use good judgment, right? We're going to start to learn how to delay gratification. Oh boy, can you imagine? 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds do not do very well with delaying gratification. They want ice cream for dinner right now, right? And so we have to teach them how to do that, because in a very short period of time, your kids are going to be, if they're not in daycare now, they're going to be going to kindergarten and to school. And quite honestly, this is my little soapbox. Kindergarten for half day is a great idea. Kindergarten all day long, when you add buses on the end of it, is a really long day for our littles, right? I have some kids who are going to kindergarten, they're getting on a bus at 6:30 and they're not getting off that bus until 5 o'clock at night because they live far out from school. That's a long day for kids. And so our reconnection, that learning, that self-regulation is going to be one of our key components to get them going.
And we
And
talk,
so,
I'm
yeah,
going to butt in really quick.
yeah,
One of the
please.
things in Circle of Security that we talk about is our job as parents is to be that co-regulator. And
Mhm,
they're learning, because at first they're not able to regulate, and they're
mhm.
learning through us and through our regulation and our being with them how to regulate. And it's so, so very important.
Yeah. And I think we do that as humans in general, right? There's that co-regulation with your parents. If you have a good relationship, there's co-regulation with your partner or your colleagues or your family visitors, right? Like these are people who are coming into your life and they're your teammates. You're going to have some teammates for a while, and they're going to go in and out of your life. And that's how I explain my role with my kids that I work with is I'm going to be your best cheerleader and your best teammate for a little while. And then, eventually you're going to graduate me. And then your best teammate hopefully is mom or dad or both, right? Having those right ingredients for connection. So a young child who develops those positive beliefs, I mean, these are wonderful, right? It's safe to trust. If we just started right there, that's that piece of connection. It's safe to love. It's safe to have my feelings. I am safe. I'm lovable. It's safe to be vulnerable. That's us. If I just put a little boat, this is our safe harbor that we're creating, right? If we create that nurturance, that's what they're believing. So this is that when you guys went through Circle of Security, this is really the result of that, right? Positive beliefs about themselves and the world. The world sometimes is not stable. There are times in your life as adults, we've all had times where things were traumatic or things were scary. That doesn't mean that the world isn't scary and we're just going to keep them protected. We're going to nurture them through those rough waters, right? We're going to nurture them through that. And for some of you who've had your own childhood trauma, that's okay. I've done trauma therapy for a lot of years, and I know we can all heal from our experiences. Doesn't take the experience away, but it might take that negative emotionality out of it as just being a part of your story, which is important, right? We all have stories. We all have things that happen to us, and that's okay, right? So traumatic experiences can lead to negative beliefs about self, others, or in the world if we don't start doing some healing and talking about it. More times than not, all caregivers will come to me, parents will come to me, grandparents will come to me and say, gosh, they were so little, they don't remember. And we now know that's not true. We now know that they had a reaction, that their body might have been flooded with a hormone called cortisol, which may have impacted them. And if we talk about it and we name it to tame it, it will help tame that negative emotionality, and that they can return to safety, because that's where our bodies are wired to do, is return to safety. So these are some common traumas that kids face. If there's abuse or neglect, witnessing violence, and this can be witnessing or hearing violence. The youngest kids in the household are usually the ones most impacted by this because they don't have language to put with that. And they also don't have the skill base that older brothers or sisters might have to resort or organize it in their brain. So we want to help them when those things happen.
Well, and
Um,
sometimes violence too, it might feel violent to a little because they don't understand what's happening. And to an adult, it could just be we were just having a disagreement that nothing really scary was happening. And so keeping in mind that it's perspectives too for littles sometimes.
Yeah, and they're in that creative, imaginative thing, right? Like we're gonna
Mhm.
have a million Elsas and Spider-Mans and Annas like embark this Friday for Halloween, right? This imagination, creativity we love and we nurture as parents. We want to grow that. So if they've experienced something scary or they've been a part of something scary, talking about it, getting their point of view can help kind of shift that and calm them down as well, right? Talking about it and kind of seeing it. And I've worked with parents where they'll be in the same room as a child is processing an event, and they'll say to me like, "Wow, that happens so differently in her mind. Can I help?" And I was like, "Absolutely, we need to help. Like that's our job, right? Like, oh, you saw it this way, but this was actually what was happening." And I'll say our littles are really good little drywallers. Like they will mud, tape, and texture events and have a different conversation about what's happening, right? Just because of that. And they're remember, we go back, their upstairs brain isn't developed yet. So we actually have to help them undo or redo or patch those areas of their life that if they've experienced these things. And we can. That's the beauty of this work. Um, some of you may have had some pre-verbal trauma for kids. There might have been early things that they can't remember, illnesses or separation, a difficult birth, a difficult, all that can impact our kids. And so I just put the slide in here because I didn't want that to go unsolicited because that's part of their story. As they're in your body and as they're growing as moms, we know that's part of their story and part of their history. Okay. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Can I
Um,
read you? I'm going to read you a couple things in the
sure.
chat.
Yeah, I love it.
So let's see. I got to see if I can get it to go back up here.
I know.
Um,
Thank you, Jennifer, for managing
yep.
all this.
So Jean shared that Ryder talks about mom and is sad at sleeping time, and we are regulating that together.
Mhm.
So I thanked her for sharing that. And
Yeah.
then Autumn shared trauma can also be a disorganized attachment. Lacking emotional safety can be traumatic.
Yes. Yes. And so if that happened, like let's say maybe a caregiver wasn't or isn't quite ready to be a parent, because sometimes that happens. Parents can come in and out of somebody's life. As long as they have that steady attachment with somebody, it can be a grandma, an auntie, an uncle. Maybe it's grandparents who are now raising this child, kind of doing a second lap. Creating that safe harbor is something that you have to really work on creating. And maybe if they experience something scary for you and maybe you were that person for them and you were unavailable, you want to now present to be available. They might be shy at first, they might be resistant, like how long is this going to last? But remember, they don't have as many rocks in their backpack like we do as adults. They don't have as many hurts as we do yet. So we can undo the hurts. I have a really lovely book that's called You Weren't With Me that really it's about a mom bunny and a baby bunny, and it really is a nice story that really talks about how mom wasn't present but now mom is present. And it doesn't go into details in the book, but it really talks about, I'm here now. I'm ready to hear you now. I'm ready to rebuild that now. And it's a nice book that focuses on connection. I can share it for you guys in between if you'd like. Okay, any other questions?
I'm checking my chat's being a little goofy.
I love it.
I know. There was one in there, but I think it disappeared. So I'll keep my eyes open and see if it comes
Okay,
back.
okay. All
Mhm.
right, all right. I'll move on just because our time, I want to make sure this is working with you. Okay, so this slide has a lot of big words. So I'm going to just break it down a little bit into words that are a little more workable. Traumatic memory is stored in the implicit memory system. Implicit memory is something that we do without thinking. So a great example of implicit might mean, man, if I got back on a bike and I learned how to ride a bike, I could ride that bike again. It might take me a few little tries, but it's there, right? So that's implicit memory, something that we can do without really having to think about it. Traumatic memory is encapsulated along with the emotions and beliefs. So if we think about an event, I'm just going to use my hands because that's what's available to me. All of the things that happen around that event are going to link up together, right? And this is how trauma triggers can actually start or form because it might be the smell, it might be the sound, it might be the sight, it might be the taste, it might be the touch, right? So if we go back to the five senses, so those are all going to wire up together. And when they wire up, they're kind of in this little capsule in the brain that hasn't been processed all the way through. So they're just in this different part of the brain, right? So they're not stored. Once we start to talk about it, they link up and they go into our lovely little filing cabinet. And if we can talk about all the emotions and things that are around that, then that child kind of clears up that memory. It makes sense. If you've done any work yourself as an adult about your own early trauma or early childhood trauma, as an adult, you could look back, undo that, link it up, and clean it up. Does that make sense? You're kind of just sweeping it up and organizing it now into your thinking brain. So I work with kids who have experienced sexual abuse, and we try to really stay at where they are developmentally to understand that. But as they get older, sometimes they'll come back to me at like 12 or 13 or 14 because now their brain has just gone through a big growth period in development. And they're like, okay, I know we worked on this when we were 4, but I'm back because now I'm 14. And now my brain is, they're not saying it this way, but their brain's a little bit different and they just need to clean that up, right? They're storing that up in a part of their brain that this is part of my story, but it doesn't define me if they're getting help. So just know that like these little encapsulated pieces, you can work on those at any point in time in your life. So if they build up and that happens, that's considered more of a developmental trauma that the child is in this kind of, if we think of steady, I'll kind of move my screen here. If we think of steady down here, kind of things get a little more chaotic and really chaotic down up here. If a kid lives in this middle state and things aren't settled, then can be more considered like a developmental trauma because they're not able to ease or settle. Okay, I hope that helps little bit understanding this strategy. So what happens is if this happens over and over again, what our brain does is it's trying to reorganize all the time, right? So when we learn something new, when you know better, you do better, right? When we know better, we do better. Oh my gosh, I learned how to cut a pineapple different. Yay. I'm going to start cutting my pineapples differently. So my brain can rewire and do this new pineapple cutting in an amazing way. And I'm going to be happy because I hate cutting a pineapple, right? This is the joy of YouTube and other places. Like if I don't know it, I'm going to TikTok it or I'm going to learn it or I'm going to do something, right? I'm going to do this. And so when our brains are obviously going through that disorganization with stress or mistrust, reactivity, those kind of things, if I'm in that heightened state, then my prefrontal cortex isn't going to develop. Because if you think about it, if you're always in a state where your downstairs brain is having to react and your amygdala is firing off, this part isn't even connected to learn, right? And so we have to calm this to learn. Okay.
Hey,
Um,
Jill, I have
yes,
a question in the chat
sure.
that I'm going to save. We can save it for the
Okay.
Q&A, or you could answer it now. But I was thinking of saving it to the Q&A, Jill.
Okay. I'll
That
let you
work
do
for
it
you?
because I
Okay,
can't see chat, so I'll let
perfect.
let you kind of manage that.
Okay.
So things that happen when kids, if they've experienced trauma or negative beliefs, can start to emerge because we are wired to survival, right? If things aren't safe over and over again, they just learn, well, guess what? I'm not safe. and they don't think good things are going to happen. They think bad things are going to happen. And the people around them, I can't really trust. They're not going to be here to keep me safe. So we get kids that look very vigilant, right? A little hyperactive. Think about this in a kindergarten classroom. A kid who's experienced trauma might look like they have attention deficit disorder because, or ADHD, ADD, because they're the kid that's like, oh, did you guys hear that? Did you know that that person just walked through the door? Oh, and then she's fiddling with her pencil and oh, this is happening over here. So we get a lot of vigilance that happens over and over again. Okay. And then negative beliefs. This is kind of the yucky stuff, right? We don't want our kids to ever know they don't deserve love or they're not good enough, right? A lot of kids will take ownership. This is my fault. I teach a co-parenting class, and a lot of parents will come to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, Jill, my kids think they were the reason for our divorce. We got to sort that through," right? They'll start to take ownership. Oh, if maybe mom was hurt or dad was hurt in a domestic violence situation. Oh, I did that because they started arguing over whether or not I got Jello for dessert, right? And so they take that ownership, and we need to give that back. Those are adult issues. I'll say often to kids with parents who are kind of in and out of their lives, oh, that's mom's hard work. That's actually not your hard work. You don't need to take that on, right? And so understanding we want to undo these negative beliefs where we can, right? Because think about that. We don't want our kids to ever feel these things. And if we do, we want them to come back to us to talk about them, right? If they're feeling like they're unworthy in class and school or in preschool, you're definitely gonna, I would probably want to have a little mama bear talk about what's going on at school, right? And helping them feel loved and deserve to be there. So, so, um, I'm just going to lift this up because I'm having a hard time seeing this slide for whatever reason. So give me a second, you guys. Let me minimize this really quickly. Okay. So this just kind of hits home of that trauma that's not remembered can be just as powerful as that trauma that is remembered, because we have that unconscious and subconscious that kind of play hands together. They start to kind of hold hands with one another. So I get this a lot from young parents, parents whose kids who have experienced something really negative when they're little, like, oh, they won't remember. We're just not going to talk about it. Or we're not going to talk about why they now live with grandma and grandpa. Or we're not going to talk about, their dad or their mom. No, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it with help if you need support and how to have that conversation. We need to do it at the developmental level that they are and make sure we put fault not on them, right? Like, oh, mom wasn't ready to be a mom right now. So you get to live with grandma, and I love you so much. I'm really happy to have you in our home, right? And we're helping them to understand a little bit without giving them a lot of details that mom or dad were on drugs or other things that could have impacted negatively in their lives, right? Okay, so what happens in this lovely little wiring that kind of comes together is we get this piece of um, us where we start to trigger off, right? We don't know what anyone's triggers are. We can start to guess them as they happen over and over again. And I'll do this sometimes with parents where we start with what happened right before the incident, right? If we look at it like kind of like dominoes, what happened right before the incident? What happened before that? What happened before that? Because there's a lot of environmental factors that can pop off for triggers. And if you think about some of these things, mom's saying no. How many times do we say no to our kids in the day? A ton, right? We have to say no to keep them safe on a lot of reasons, right? But if it's happening over and over again and it's sending them, then that's something where we have to kind of help sort that through for that kiddo, right? Saying no is not a bad thing. That's not why we're going to say no to our kids a lot of places and a lot of ways because we need to keep them safe, right? Um, and so these are just some examples that parents have also given over the years of like, oh my gosh, I said, parents are going out of town or there's a holiday reminder, and that is a memory. It's a hard time of year for them, right? Like, and maybe if they've had a death of a parent that time of year, like in the fall, kids might act out because dad died in the fall, right? And now all of a sudden it's fall and there's pumpkins out and there's things happening and the leaves are falling. Oh, that's when my dad died. And when I have fall weather, it kind of reminds me of the day that he passed. So those are some examples of triggers. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a couple. I just have somebody that commented that a study recently showed that a toddler hears no on average of 400 times a day.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy? And
Mhm.
it's safety. Usually we're doing that because, the environment isn't set up. A lot of environments aren't set up for our kids. And so we have to do that just in that. Or, they're doing their good job of like, where is that? Let me inch up over to that limit, right? Like we're gonna do that, our job of like, if I'm worth my weight in gold, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on why, right? I don't know how many times. I wish there was a study on how many times a 3-year-old said why, how, why, right? Any other questions?
I have a few on here that I think will take a little bit of answering, and so I think we'll save them for the Q&A,
Okay.
if that works, and that way you can keep yours moving on.
Okay. And I look at these journal reflections. Wow. I look at these journal reflections for something that our family visitors could do with our families because I think that is such an intimate thing to do. But it's also good as parents to know, like, what are my kids' triggers, right? Like, what does set them off? What are some things, and these will change over time as they grow and change, they may change. That healing also can change over time as well. So something that might trigger them initially, and I get this a lot when kids will start therapy, parents will be like, we thought we were going to have World War III when we took away, the ice cream, and we didn't. Like, wow, like that was like everyone was kind of on pins and needles, and all of a sudden, okay, I won't have dessert today. I didn't earn it or whatever, right? And so that's kind of fun to see for parents. All right. So when we go back into this lower area functioning brain, it is our survival, right? And we are wired to live. We are wired to do lots of hard things. And so a lot of times kids who might just be in survival brain can get labeled as oppositional or defiant or rebellious or brats, right? Oh, he's just a brat, right? But maybe he or she had a really hard couple of years and maybe they need more connection to things, or maybe they're moving into that fight, flight, or freeze. Did you go into that at all, Jennifer, in Circle of Security, fight, flight, or freeze?
We don't do a lot on the fight, flight, or freeze during
Okay.
circle of security.
Okay. All
But
right. So as mammals, we all have this, right? Every mammal is wired for with fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, we're going to fight for survival. So we're going to be angry, kind of like this little mountain lion that we have going on. Hopefully we don't ever meet one of them in a hike. But we might be wired with that. Flight is you're going to hide or run, and freeze is your body just shuts down. Like your body just really does that. Mice do this when a cat catches them and they go into a frozen state because their brains know, their growth knows that cats like fresh food. And if a mouse pretends to be dead food isn't great to eat for cats because they could get mites or sick, right? They could get maggots. And so we have these survival tools that we do, and we teach these. Stop, drop, and roll when there's a fire. The firefighters come to first and second grade classrooms and some even preschool classrooms to teach fire safety because fires are big and scary, and we teach kids little tricks to get to safety in a fire, right? Stop, drop, and roll. We also, we all live in the Pacific Northwest. We have things when we go on hiking trails, right? We take bear spray, or we, you're supposed to get big with a cougar and you're supposed to get small with a bear. I might have that opposite, but we have to learn these things and we teach these things. We sometimes have to teach our kids and prep our kids, pre-teach things that they're going to do that might be difficult or hard, right? If they go back and forth from parent to parent's home, or maybe they are going to spend the night with grandparents, we might actually take our t-shirt and wrap it in a pillow, and so they can have the mom smell, right, when they go to sleep, because that's safety. It kind of helps them feel safe. Or we might do a pre-teach countdown of, oh gosh, you're going to be at grandma's for 2 sleeps, and then you're going to come back to me. And if they nap, that might be 4 sleeps. But you can't really say Tuesday to a 3-year-old because they're not going to get it, right? So we might do a visual calendar where they X off the days where they go back and forth. So to combat some of these survival responses, we do a lot of teaching and pre-teaching so kids can be prepared to do those things that are hard. Because sometimes in life, things are hard. Child in survival brain, think about that lack of connection. There's not a lot going up here in their good thinking brain at that time. So their capacity to learn and to focus goes down, right? They have to connect first to go back into that learning part of their brain. They might have, they might not be able to enjoy relationships very well, right? They might be wired in that survival brain that if somebody pushes them on the swing too hard, that reminding them of mom or dad pushing them or hurting them. So, they might react to that before they get taught. No, we have to push you hard to get you to go back and forth on the swing. And then little ability to think about the future, poor choices, or that kind of thing. So if they're wired in the survival brain, this usually shows up in therapies around food. Food can be a big one. I had a group of kids who were kind of food starved and came into therapy after they got back with their grandma, and those kiddos were hiding food in different plants around grandma's house. She had little, grandma had little candies out in a story in a little dish. And she noticed all the candies were gone. And then when she went to water her flowers, the candies were found in the flower pots. That's a child wired to survival. Like, I'm going to eat this candy, but I'm not sharing it and I want to eat it on my own time clock. So, a lot of times we would help kids understand that food is readily available when it wasn't for a period of time, right?
And we, in the circle of security, we talk a little bit about because people will be concerned about their child's behavior, and we really like to remind families that all behavior is communication, and that oftentimes what appears to be just like a naughty behavior is them trying to communicate a need to you. And when they're in their survival brain, that's the only way that they have to communicate, especially
And
when they're so little. They don't have the the verbiage to be able to say, I'm feeling really nervous right now about. Instead they're like, I'm gonna just.
Yep. It brings up a great point, Jennifer, that we want to chase the why. Why is this happening? Why is he doing this? Be curious with your kiddos. I had a kid last week. He literally physically turned his back completely away. And I was like, that's really good communication that he was done, right? Now, the parent didn't want that to happen, but I was like, he was kind of telling you he was trying to communicate with you, but he was done. So once mom understood that, she was able to pause, give him a few minutes, and then come back to that conversation. And he was able to have it once he was able to settle, right?
And we kind of talked too a little bit about on that same note, that because parents will be, why are you doing this to me? And that we
Mhm.
try to remind them they're not doing that to you, they're asking something from you. I
Yeah.
have a need and I need this to be met, and this is the only way that I know how to get it across to you.
Yeah, to get that need met. So we always talk about, is this a survival rule, right? Like, survival rule is I need to take what I need and I don't get it. So when we go back to that reflection journal of like what are your kiddos' triggers, this is what leads into that, because those survival rules or those triggers can turn into rules. And we don't want them to turn into rules because, again, we want to be the safe harbor. So for some kids, I'll go back to my food kiddos. We had to greet those kids with food when they got home from, like, when they got in the car. Grandma had snack bags and she made five, these were five kids. She had five little snack bags with grapes and whatever. She chose what and she chose how much by the bag, right? So she put snack bags out. She actually had each kiddo got a banana by their bedside because we needed something clean that they could eat, or a little applesauce squeezy because they would wake up and rummage food throughout the night. And so if we had food at their bedside table, that was a really great way to present food. At Kinderhaven, sometimes we had kids that didn't know how to, and this is little kids too, right? Like, okay, you're going to shampoo, and it's not a dime size. We get the whole, and then, oh, this feels good, and I'm going to smear it on the walls, and all of a sudden your shampoo's gone, right? So we have to teach those little dime size like things. So at Kinderhaven, we would actually buy or not buy, but we would, if people went on hotels, like we talked to the board and we were like, please bring back your hotel room shampoo bottles. And parents would fill the mini bottles. And so they didn't waste their shampoo and their conditioner because the kids were like, squeeze, 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 like we want them to do it. But we were running through shampoo left and right. And that stuff gets expensive, right? So we did travel size shampoos, right? And we did travel size cups and we did travel size instead of the big gallon of milk. How clunky is that for a 3-year-old, right? So we put them in little pitchers. A long time ago, a Head Start, we used to do a family, my Head Start was in Moscow. We would do a circle tables and we would all eat, but the kids would like serve kind of family style. And we noticed our big pitchers that we had were really adult centered. They weren't for kids to pour their own milk or their own juice. And so we had to shrink them, right? So it was manipulating with that. If kids are working or they're having a hard time drawing, we don't use big pencils. We use little golf pencils, right? The little short stubby ones, so they can begin to manipulate those with their fingers. So just went off on a little tangent there. So I want to be conscious of our time here too. Um, let me burn through this because I think we can kind of do it at our end of day. Um, so what happens sometimes, and I kind of have windows closed here, is sometimes we have this nice big wide window of tolerance where we're able to take things. Trauma can narrow that window. Lack of sleep narrows that window. Lack of food narrows that window. Missing your nap narrows that window, right? We think about our tolerance as a scale or a spectrum. What happened throughout that day that might have narrowed that window? Sometimes when your kids miss their nap or they do whatever, they might need to go to bed by, 6 or 7 o'clock because they missed their nap. Now they're grumpy. Anything that you're feeding them doesn't matter. They're just melting down. And really, if we chase it backwards, they just need to go to bed. Right. And sometimes those days you might be very happy because they're in bed a little bit earlier on things. So we do have this window of tolerance where we want to stay connected, where we can learn, where we can grow and we can thrive. Getting out of that window of tolerance can create some emotional reactivity, right? It can move up into fight, flight, or freeze. It can move up into anger or rage or collapse. And then, or it can go the other direction where it numbs down and goes narrow, where it can disassociate. So we want to keep our learning right in that window of tolerance. You guys might have your own windows of tolerance, like me sitting here and talking to you. You might have been like, okay, like my window of tolerance is done. Jill, stop talking. We need this hour to be over with, right? So it kind of depends on your day and the interests of the subject and all of those kind of things. So our windows can grow and shrink, right? For kids who have maybe some attention deficit pieces, it's not inattention. That's why I hate this diagnosis of ADHD. It's inconsistent attention because they can pay attention to something that they like for a long period of time and let the rest of the world go. Oh, I was supposed to get ready for school. No, I really just wanted to play this video game, right? So they can focus in and have really great attention to some things really well. So that's that level of window of tolerance. So hyperarousal is when we get our stress hormones released, our heart rate increases, get ready for a race. We're going to run, we're going to fight, we're going to flee. We're jumpy, right? Hypoarousal, we're starting to disengage, to fade back, to go away, right? Numb out, dissociate, check out. So if we can look at this would be a great activity to do with your home visitors. What is their emotional responses to new foods, right? There's emotional outbursts, like what's going on. This is really kind of identifying that chase the why. Why are our kids responding in this way, right? And it's not all kids in the house. It could be little Susie versus her big brother Johnny. Johnny, he'll eat anything. Susie, I put some broccoli on her plate. Wow, World War III, right? And so kind of chasing that why. And that's what Jennifer talked about a little earlier is all behaviors have a reason. We want to chase the why to that reason. And we want to stabilize it if it's unstable. We want to help them understand why, right? Okay.
And you'll notice that when we sent out the workbook, it's got some areas for you to journal and to kind of dig a little bit deeper into the material. And so we would really encourage you to go through it either on your own time or with your home visitor and just
Yep.
kind of discuss. Your home visitors are going to have access to the video of this, and they can help process some of this and do some reflections.
Yep. And sometimes for some kids, they get stuck in the start. Like they can't get started, right? I do this a lot with my older kiddos where they do not, like I have one girl in particular, she doesn't like math. And so she has math homework. She gets stuck in her homework because she always starts with math. And I'm like, don't start with math. Like start with science or start with reading first. And then we'll buffer a little couple problems in math in the middle. That way you can start. Right? Have you guys ever done that? Sometimes I have to like, for me, I get some anxiety and I'm like, oh, if I clean my house first, then these PowerPoint slides will just emerge. And I'm like, they have nothing to do with each other. You just have to start the process and maybe get help to start the process. So you may have to set up the environment for little kids to help start that process. You guys all have these wonderful toy bins of information and materials. And I know mom, their room. It's so great. All the cars are in the train. So if you want them to go back to that, take a picture of them, print the picture on the bin. So then when the child is told to clean their room and sort the bins, they know what picture to look at for certain things. Same with dresser, right? Like socks are going to go into this side or underwear is going to go into this side. We're going to help our kids get started when they're stuck, right? Okay. All right. When these things start to happen, right? If I'm not safe, reminders. It's my job to keep you safe, right? If they're moving into, if your child has had a rough weekend with their other parent and now they're home, remind them they're home with you, that they're safe with you, that doesn't need to happen at our house, right? And sometimes I'll even have kids if they're like switching their backpack, or if I have parents who decide to homeschool, I'll have the parent they'll sometimes be like, man, it's really hard to be the mom and the teacher. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put on an apron or something that is like, hey, this is teaching time now, right? Like I'm moving over to your teacher. Reminding that they're lovable, reminding that they're safe, that they can depend on you to take care of them. When we get into the slides, sometimes kids who have experienced yucky things will sometimes be kind of parentified. And that fancy word means they kind of want to take your job. Sometimes you have to remind them that you're the parent. Like, oh, that's it. That sounds like a grown-up decision. I'll make that choice, but you can make this choice, right? Like, I'll decide that we're going to have mac and cheese for dinner, and you can decide how much you're going to eat, right? And so sometimes we have to shift that and separate that out.
We are right at 12:02. What would you like to do?
We got it. So this is
Mm.
just I'll use this as my last slide here because this is perfect. That we're going to go back to these four ingredients, right? And we're gonna dive into these a little bit more. Today was kind of sciencey around brain development, but I wanted us to have a good working base for how do we do this, right? Because we want to get into the how. I want you to leave with some hands-on tools that we can do for your kids and your family that are going to help. But these are those great four ingredients again: touch, eye contact, closeness, emotional attunement, talking about emotions, holding that environment, making it safe, and having fun with our kids, like being playful. That's if we can do all those things, you're winning. You're winning the day, let's say. And each day is new and different. So we want to win, the day if we can.
And
So,
we kind of
okay.
talk about these in circle of security too, like
Yeah.
delighting in your
Okay.
child. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those connections. So
Yeah.
Jill is going to be here again next week, and right now she's going to do a little Q&A, if
Mhm.
anybody has any questions, and then at 12:15 we will be done. So let me just take a quick peek at the chat, Jill, and then I'll tell you what we see. Okay,
Yep.
I'll give you some of the questions that are on here.
Great. If people have questions that they think about in between, I'm happy to, if you want to, if they want to respond to you, maybe you can keep kind of a log of them and then
Yep.
we can respond the next time we're together.
And then also let's do the couple on the chat, and then you guys can unmute and ask questions too. So Eden
Sure.
asked, my 3-year-old is transitioning home from foster care, and she has recently been in a no stage every time I tell her or ask her to do something, even simple things. I've never experienced this behavior with her before. Can this be a symptom of rebuilding our connection? And how
Yep.
can I help her through this? And so I told her that no is pretty developmental too, very much part of her age and stage, but that you would be able to give her some other tips too.
Yeah, I think that that reconnection is going to be huge. Having some time with her that is kind of non-parenting, where you're just playing and being together. Where I mean, we're always parenting, but you know what I mean, where you're not like, no, no, you can't do this. Yes, you can do this. Where you're just like sharing time together, where you're having that connection and reading and closeness. Reading is great because she gets to hear your voice. She gets to kind of attune and do those pieces. And I think that's that as she reunites with you, you're really restructuring like, oh wait, I'm in charge of you now, right? Like I'm gonna be the one that's gonna meet your needs, and I'm gonna be the one that is gonna do this. So be patient with the no, because she might have some bigger feelings kind of going on underneath that, and that might be why.
And
So sometimes with that, I'll do like a head to toe, like your no might actually be like, that you're sad or you're mad, because what I see is, you're gripping your fists or you're, clenching your jaw. That looks a little more mad than a no to me. Are you mad about that? Are you upset about that? And it takes a while to know that. Having some visuals around her schedule each day might help too. Something on the fridge or something that she can check that isn't just, to you, like, here's our plan today. It can be really simple, and that helps a lot of kids. Reunification or not, that reconnection is like, oh, let's check our calendar today. And it can be like, hang out on our jammies today, you guys. You don't have to be, the entertainer of things. So
thank you, Jill. I have a
yeah.
question from Chantel. Chantel says, my niece's mom has been in out of their life. The conversation hasn't happened as to why. They've been told she is sick. I think she has drug addiction. And at what age should that conversation happen?
It depends on what the kiddo is asking about. So if the kiddo is asking like where my mommy is, and you could, like, on those, I use that broad, mom is doing her hard work, because substance use is tricky. Somebody can stay clean and sober for a period of time and then relapse, right? And so when mom does her hard work to be able to do FaceTime calls or get to have some level of connection, for kids with that, sometimes I'll say, okay, if we're going to just start with FaceTime calls, then those are going to be consistent of every Tuesday. If that parent isn't capable of that consistency, then you really have to think about, is it good to start and stop? Right. And sometimes you're not savvy to that. You're not the one in charge of that. But if they do Tuesday phone call, then next Tuesday comes along and they don't show up and they don't show up, then they're not ready to rebuild that relationship. And so I always say start with phone calls and then build off of that, or FaceTime for littles. If she's able to come over, make sure you have the next one planned. So we're going to see mom on Tuesday, then we're going to see her again the following Tuesday or in seven sleeps. If mom isn't doing that, is not the child's fault. Oh, mommy didn't do her hard work, so she has to go on with that.
See
I
what
would
else we
say
have.
for substance use too, I save those and probably until elementary, just because their brains aren't quite wired up to understand it unless they experienced it and they're talking about, the substances that she did use if she used in front of them.
We have another one here. One
These
second.
are awesome questions, you guys. Like, amazing.
I'm so appreciative. So we
Yeah.
have Brooke asked, I was advised to actively ignore my toddler during a tantrum. Should I calmly wait for him to calm down or hold him tightly or question mark? He sometimes will hit or bite me or hit his head on things.
If you've been told to actively ignore, right? That can be a method, but the second he does something good in that tantrum, right? The second he calms down, takes a deep breath, a sigh, man, we're going to praise that sigh. We're going to praise that good behavior, because now we're building off of, we're trying to build up the good and extinguish the negative. If he hits his head, you're going to have to hold him, or clear the room, or throw a pillow down. Like, oh, we don't hit heads on hard surfaces. Here's a pillow that if you're going to continue to hit, here's a safe place where you can bang your head, right? Like, so we're going to create that environment for safety for him. But a second, anything he does that's relatively positive, and I'm not looking for, oh my gosh, he's amazing now. We're looking for, he takes a deep breath in between cries. Thanks for taking that deep breath. That was amazing. Right. And because then he's going to trigger on to, oh, wait, when I do good things, I get attention. This is great. Mhm.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions that they want to unmute and ask?
I would. So let me put my video. Hi, sorry. My 17-year-old stepson, hopefully you can help me with this one. There's like a long history with this, but essentially him and his siblings was removed from his mom's home. She's being investigated currently for abuse. And so we really haven't, like my husband hasn't had quite that opportunity to be a parent to him, because how
Yep.
often she would just use him like a tool and take off and not let him come whenever she'd get mad. So at this point, he has chosen flight as his response with things. So he is currently a runaway, and I'm just not
Mm.
sure, how would you handle that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Um, I think if I was to have a 17-year-old, I would probably have him, and a lot of 17-year-olds, part of their power is they refuse therapy, right? Like they'll say, like, hey, we'd like to get you into therapy because you're not talking to us about it. So we'd like you to talk to somebody about this. But they have choice in that therapist. So they get to interview that person for therapy. So you may have a couple of different people to do that. But really, like with dad, is that connection with him. Like, if he's is he a runaway right now? Or is
Yes,
he back home? Oh, he is.
he's
He's gone.
currently. Yeah.
Does he have a connection where he's checking in with dad? Like, does he have a cell phone where they can
He
connect?
has a cell phone, but no, when he runs away, he doesn't talk to us at all. Like the last time this
Okay.
happened, he was gone for like a year.
Oh
But
boy. Oh,
his
yeah,
other side of the family helps him and like essentially will uh
kind
I
of
don't know
caters
how
to
to make
yeah.
it quit making that noise. Okay. There you go. Sorry, Chantel.
Oh, I can't hear it. No, it's okay. I would have him just send quick texts. Good morning, good afternoon, thinking about you, right? Like presence, mind, and mind. Start with that and see if that can build. whoever is, if you know he's safe, like with that caregiver, checking in on that too, right? And seeing if he's safe. That's tough though, because there's not a lot you can do, given that, and he's 17, he's still minor, so he's 17, kind of by law, by nature, and so, depending on how far you want to take that, if he's safe with a relative, you guys can approve that or deny that, and then he can come home. So, but yeah, a lot to unpack there. I would start with probably more professional help than he's getting, if he's willing. And if he's like, well, I'm not going, but like my 17-year-old, I'm not going to a shrink, right? And you say, okay, well, why don't you, let's interview a few so he gets choice, because he might find somebody he connects to. And that's the bigger thing, is you want him to be able to connect and work through it if he's not going to do it with dad. And then maybe you and dad at some point can come into that and be a part of it for him. Because
Okay.
it's scary. You don't want him to run away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it looks like we are real close. We have 2 minutes of Jill's time left. Does anybody have any other questions or comments they'd like to give?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Sure.
My toddler will not rest without wailing and crying. He refuses to take naps. He does certain things. He throws things at dad. He bites. He won't go to sleep at all. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get him to settle down before taking naps.
Because we have to play hard.
Because
He played hard.
he plays hard.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So he's getting lots of energy out. That's the main thing. Like, he's getting enough exercise. He's getting lots of energy out. How old a toddler is he?
He's 1.5.
He's 1.5. He's almost 2.
Yeah, he still needs some sleep. Yeah, it's hard. You have to kind of go back to, like, is he going off of a screen? Because screens are like, you're getting a lot of, I'll say, a chemical called dopamine, which is a feel-good chemical. And if he's going from like a video or a screen to a nap, that's like a cliff, right? So
Yeah.
things like reading to him, holding him, having some quiet, just some, like, we get rid of the term we're taking a nap, but just some quiet time in the room. And then you guys are like sitting in the room, like one of you sitting in the room, and he is just quietly doing some quiet play, right? If you pull back the layers of, like, we need you to sleep, we're going to create an environment that's pretty boring, and he can have some books on his bed. He can, play quietly to himself. It is that settle to sleep.
Okay,
Like,
because he.
fun.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just don't be super fun during that time. Like, I'll read to you.
So if
I'll
you
cuddle you.
Yeah, because we do all that. We read to him. We read about like 3, at least 3 books before nap and bedtime. And it's just like he doesn't believe in sleeping, because it's like he doesn't sleep at all like that.
Mhm.
And he plays really hard before all of it. Like, we've tried to do everything just to help him sleep, but I don't know what else to do exactly.
Sleep is going to be your key to lots of things, because sleep gives lots of, this. Sleep is like, this is how you grow, this is how you
Mm-hmm.
change and you develop. And so you want to think about, like, I love the play hard, right? Like, you're taking him outside, he's getting those big muscles,
Right.
big energy. But then it might be like, we're going to come in, we're going to have lunch, right? We're going to have food. And now we're going to have, and you could just call it quiet time, right?
Well, that's what I did.
Love it.
So instead of saying nap time, because it's not exactly nap time, because he doesn't really nap,
Mhm.
we go by quiet time,
Love it.
about 12 to like 1:30 at least.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
That
no, I
was
think
just
that's
my
great.
question.
Is we just do a quiet time, and you might reduce that to like,
Yeah.
30 minutes, 40 minutes, but it's like you guys are not the fun ones at that time. You
Hmm.
guys are kind of like, oh, sorry, it's quiet time. You need like mom has her things to do, dad has his things to do. You need to stay right here, right? You need to be on
Hmm.
your bed. Like your bed's your boundary. You're going to be on your bed and you can read, you can draw, right? Things that he can do on his bed that you're okay with, right?
Well, you, he has a bunch of stuffies, and we leave things in his crib where he has things to talk to or whatever he does. Uh, but I don't know. It's just I'm trying with all this, but should we one of us always get up like because we check on him, but should we also like get him out of his crib? Because I feel like if you get him out of his crib when it's bedtime, he's not going to get used to that time of bed. That bedtime or nap
No,
time.
I like him in his crib where he's safe, right? We want to always lead with safety.
Yeah.
He might have too many things in his crib, so that might be something that you and your family advocate could look at, kind of how you're setting up the room for him. Sometimes music or putting like darkening things, like this is a pretty light room. I wouldn't want to sleep in
Yeah.
this room, but if I darken the lights, my circadic rhythm, my eyes are gonna go, oh, it's rest time. And then maybe having either white noise or you can get them free on your phone,
Hmm.
where you set the environment where it's just calming music or boring music and you're setting that environment up for creating calm. And I think your family visitor can come in and kind of like, let's set up bed
How could
as
help with all
as
that?
a lovely, boring area, right? Just kind of like there's not a lot to do here.
Hmm.
Going to help him stay safe and
Because
calm.
we live in an apartment and we're trying to, because he figured out like how to like
Glenn,
scream. I
he
mean,
opened the back door
it hurts your
yesterday.
ears after a
In the
while.
front door
And it gets
yesterday.
to the point where because I'm not too much of a morning person and it really frustrates me. And
Yeah.
speaking to say, I always have to get up at like 3 a.m. just to get, ready for work and stuff.
Mhm.
So it really kind of like stresses me out, but it's like I seem like I'm a little rude about it sometimes, and I'm trying to like
You think
fix
that
it, because I'm not fully awake at that time. So I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know what I'm doing at that point.
Yeah, sure. And you can use like you and your family person can talk about like a broken record statement, like it's sleepy time or it's quiet time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to really add any thought to it because
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of like that record player, like, oh, it's quiet time.
Right.
It's quiet time now.
Okay.
You're not like, you know.
Yeah, because I kind of
Jill, I
heat up
want
when he
to
does
protect
that,
your
early in the
time.
morning, and I'm like, no,
I
son,
try to tell
please.
you
Yes, please, it's
also
bedtime.
that it could be that you
But good information. Thank you so much, Jill.
You're welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
every Monday
Thank you,
is
guys.
parenting class.
Yep. So I want to protect Jill's time because I know she has a really
Yeah,
busy schedule.
I do.
We will see you guys again next week on Monday from
Every
11 to
Monday.
12. And again, we'll have a nice little 15-minute question and answer session after that.
Can I
Yeah.
have one more question real quick? How long is this parenting class
It's
for?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay.
Yep, 4 weeks.
Weeks. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right, you
Jill,
guys. It was so great
thank
to meet all of you. I look forward to reading your chats. If you want to put additional questions in, you can give them to Jennifer and we'll consolidate them. And I appreciate your time. Thank you all
Yeah,
so very
thank
much.
you.
Have a good day, guys.
All right,
Bye,
we'll see you
guys.
all next week. I'll send out reminders. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yep. Bye bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Almost, I've got two. Let's see if I can. One. Okay. We have one last person here, I think. Thank you. All right. I'm going to turn off
Okay.
the recording.